Vines had grown over its walls and busted out windows. Graffiti and litter were everywhere on the inside. The outside had a black, rusted, and bent metal gate. When I was a teenager, my friends and I would skateboard around the estate. Our group consisted of Charlie, David, Mac, Nick, Sam, and me. We trespassed near the front garden. The smooth cement pathways with aligned withered hedgerows were too tempting to avoid. The small manor was so far removed from the rest of the public that we never got in trouble. Still, even as adventurous as we may have been, we never went into any level of the house. A stone well sat near a utility shed on the northeast part of the property. Although I peered down into its depths on more than one occasion, I never thought much of it. It had been dry for a long time, which we found out since one day we did try to retrieve water from it out of pure curiosity. The well went so far down that blackness covered its bottommost part. A decade passed since then. Some people in my friend's group died. One of them went to prison for a string of burglaries. I seem to be the only one who created a more than subpar life, though all I do now is tedious work in a marketing firm. I still own a skateboard, but my adult responsibilities prevent me from taking it out and enjoying it. My phone rang one evening after a long shift. It was Nick. I almost contemplated not answering since it was late at night. Nick had kept his nose clean for a while, but he was still unpredictable. It was also near Christmas time. I could see him taking advantage of my generosity and asking for money he would use in all the wrong ways. He liked to get into bar brawls as well, which always made getting a beer with him stressful. If a fight broke out near him, he had to get involved. Although I did not approve of his decision-making, I knew him to be a loyal friend. He was someone with a good heart, even if other people struggled to see it the way I did. I answered. "I'm about to go to sleep," I said. "You need to come out here to the house we used to skateboard at," Nick said. "Right now?" I asked with a sigh. "That's not possible. I have meetings tomorrow." "Please," he said. "I promise you won't regret it. There's something in it for you. Money." I got into my truck and drove. Even though I had not been to the location in a very long time, I could still remember how to get there in my sleep. Luckily, I had a flashlight below the passenger seat. I fished it out, locked my vehicle, and proceeded to walk down the familiar and grand entrance. When I neared the well, I saw Nick standing right beside it. He had a legal pad and pen in his hands. His eyes glinted in the darkness. The luminescence of my beam made the trees behind him seem like feathers lit by candles as they swayed in the wind. I felt foolish. I wondered if he had roped me into some kind of illegal transaction, or as a co-conspirator to a crime. "What are we doing here?" I asked. "You're going to think I'm crazy. You should know I've tested this out, and it works. I heard about this from a friend who's been making a living off of it. His name is Michael Antion. He lives in one of the upscale neighborhoods on the north side of town." I thought he was lying, but the way he told me the story made me want to at least try it out. "What are you talking about?" I asked as frustration overcame me. He handed me the yellow legal pad and writing tool. Nick looked me dead in the eyes with the sort of sincerity I had rarely seen from him. Whenever we had ever hung out, he never had an ounce of seriousness unless he was talking about sports. "Write down one of your deepest secrets," he said. "It cannot be a fake one. It must be something that you did, something you have some guilt over or a fear of getting caught for. You sign it either in cursive or print, fold it, put it in the bucket, and lower it into the well. This is where it gets hard to believe, but you have to trust me. When you raise the bucket again, there will be $300. I stared at him with pity. "You believe in a random rich guy's childish fairy tale?" I asked. So you have to confess to a crime or a mistake in writing with a signature. Money comes up afterward. You didn't think this could be a law enforcement operation? If this is some kind of gag you created when you were high, it's not funny. Try it out, he said. It won't cost you anything. If you're right, then nothing happens, and I look like an idiot. You already do, I said as I stared at the page. I wrote down a brief 2-sentence summary after I racked my brain. Those repressed memories I wanted to repent for were not easy to excavate. I recalled the time when I stole a kid's PlayStation when I was younger. The sort of loathing I acquired for thieves in general only strengthened as the years went on after. The repugnance for people of that nature led me to feel extra guilt. I folded the note, placed it in the bucket, and lowered it into the well. I shined my light down into it and did not see anything except inky water. Then I leaped back. Something was in there. It was a gray-colored face, a smile spread across its ugly mug with gaunt dimples. I looked again, and it was no longer there. What's wrong? Nick asked. I shook my head and pretended as though nothing happened. The rope was taut. I raised the container. 3 crisp $100 bills faced me. They were not even damp. I illuminated its depths once more and did not see any movement. There were no bubbles on the surface. There was no hint of any presence there, outside of the glimpse I saw. I told you, Nick said. Nick and I visited the well every night for months on end. We had a rule where we had to stand at least 10 feet apart as we wrote out our notes. It did become alarming how we never ran out of content concerning mistakes made in our lifetimes. Our backgrounds were something we were not proud of. Yet, we were happy to have been dysfunctional growing up, since it led to the currency we received during that time. I saved up $27,000 in a matter of 3 months. I kept the cash in my garage in a set of boxes labeled gardening. Everyone on Earth assumes they know what they would do with a copious amount of cash after a lucky windfall. The reality is how overwhelmed you get when you do acquire luck. I was unsure of how I was going to spend my newfound wealth. There was a very rich, deep-seated satisfaction in watching the bills pile up. A warmth in my chest I had never felt before became an addictive sensation every time I looked at the money. One night, Nick called me as I was preparing to venture out to the well. It stopped working, Nick said. What? I asked as I felt my legs turn to mush. You're lying. Come out here and test it yourself, he said as he hung up. I went there and wrote note after note. Bad decisions poured out of me onto the page. I thought of arguments, name-calling, and relationships which ended because of me. I thought of drunken events I cringed at. Each time, the bucket came up empty. I turned to Nick and shrugged. I guess that's the end of our big break, I said. I hope you didn't spend it all on booze and women at the bars. I've been keeping mine. I would pay later on for my bragging, as though I had it all figured out, because what happened next would humble me. Somebody knocked on my door in the early hours of a Saturday. I was already awake and thinking about breakfast. I walked over to the entranceway, peered through the peephole, and saw a man in a suit. He had an expensive watch on. Everything about him seemed official. I wondered why the FBI might bother me. I answered. He said my name, but he possessed a tone as though it was a question. That's me, I said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small satchel. He retrieved an average printer-sized piece of paper. He turned it over and showed it to me. It was the many secrets that I had written down. They were in linear order. Creases and lines kept each week separated. My first reaction was to reach out for the piece of paper. He handed it over to me. I tore it up. I have many copies, he said. You destroying it changed nothing. It does not give me any less power over you." "Who are you?" I asked. "Michael Antion," he said with a grin. "You and Nick sure got up to a lot in your youth, didn't you? I have a copy of his list as well, in case you want to know how many times he betrayed you. You're not surprised though, are you?" I did not answer. "Your friend knew I would pay you a visit," he said. "I collected his money every 3 days. I knew he would spend it with reckless abandon if I did not intervene. A few times, I had to collect the debt in an unsavory way from him. He did a good job in following my order to not tell you about me. I judged you as a little more uptight and conservative with your funds. Was I right on that?" "No," I said. "I'm a degenerate gambler. I already spent it all on lotto tickets." Michael pulled out a gun. He pointed it at my midsection. "I know when people are lying," he said. "Tell me where the money is. See, my net worth is already great enough for me to get away with hurting you badly today. Do you value the money you generated more than the ability to walk?" I yearned to keep up the charade, but I knew I could not with the risk in front of me. For the first time in a while, I felt a sheer and inescapable horror at my potential impending demise. I escorted him into the garage and showed him the gardening boxes. He put the gun in his front coat pocket. He maintained its aim on me, though now it was beneath the fabric of his clothing. "You are going to carry each one of them to the Lincoln parked next to your truck. If any of the neighbors ask what you were doing, tell them you were helping a friend by giving him some new tools." It was roughly 59 pounds worth altogether and required different trips. He demanded that we talk about the latest baseball game. It was a way to seem innocuous should anyone eavesdrop. "How did you do it?" I asked after I placed the final box in the compartment. "You won't believe me," he said. "Whatever you did works," I said. "I don't understand how you collected our notes when the bottom of the well had water." I remembered how I did see a face that one time. "There are servitors who do my bidding after I cast a spell," he said. "The problem is they have a very short shelf life. The creation of them gives diminishing returns over time. The more I create, the weaker they get. I found out that when they have new victims to feast upon, they gain more strength. The more secrets to indulge in, the better it pays off for me. I ran out of my secrets a long time ago, believe it or not. I lived a clean life until I figured out how to make more money." He walked backward, not wanting to avert his gaze from me. "If you ever tell anyone about what I did here today, I will share your confessions with the world." He got into his Lincoln and drove away. It took me half a month to muster the bravery, but I went to a hardware store and purchased a sledgehammer. I drove out to the well one final time and smashed it to bits. I chopped the bucket apart. I am unsure if his incantations were used on the well as a primary tool or household for the servitors. I reasoned how even if all I did was inconvenience the man, it would have been worth it. He had likely made millions off of people like Nick and I, and this left me enraged. I ceased all communication with Nick. It was obvious I could not trust him. It was not difficult to sever communication with him, since I have not seen him since our money scheme fell apart. Sometimes I see the same servitor I caught a glimpse of that first night. It is in my periphery in the nocturnal hours when exhaustion has sat in at its fullest. I hope it stops following me because I am terrified of it.